Well, good afternoon, everybody. Just kind of going back to Saturday quickly. We're still fighting consistency. That's the biggest thing. We put some really good, consistent drives together offensively. Had a big play to start the game, so there's some real positives. But one of the big drives we had, we end up getting stopped at the 4 and not getting in the end zone, and end up getting 3 out of that. And that's been where we have been successful, is getting some touchdowns or more touchdowns in the red zone. And that was a game, obviously, we needed touchdowns and didn't get that done. And then defensively, I had some really good series. I had a lot of 3-and-outs and gave our offense an opportunity on a number of occasions when we were down 4 late to get ourselves a chance to get back in the game. But, talking to Coach Hayes and the defensive staff, 3rd and long just obviously was our big detriment. We couldn't get off the field on 3rd and long and gave up 3 touchdowns on 3rd and long. And for us to be successful, we have to win on 3rd down. We have to be able to get in the red zone and get touchdowns. And when you don't do those things, and the matchups, in my mind, were pretty even as far as anybody could beat anybody in that game. They had the upper hand because they were able to do some of those things. So, and then on special teams, we didn't do anything elite at all. We just were very average on teams, and when you're average at that phase, and we need to win that phase, you can end up on the short end. And so, had a good meeting with the guys yesterday, and they know that we need to continue to battle, need to continue to improve, need to continue to hold each other accountable, and had a good workout yesterday. And we know we're going into a tough environment in Texas Tech and playing a night game, and our guys got to put their best foot forward, and we got to play our best game. So we'll open it up.
You went back and looked at those 3rd downs. What were the specific issues, and what do you think you need to do better?
Well, the one we pressured, and they picked it up, did a nice job picking it up, and then you got all one-on-ones, and nobody gets home. And I thought J-Mac had good coverage, and they threw a nice ball for a score. So that one, give them credit in my mind. And then they sprinted away from us one time on a 3rd down, and we just didn't collapse coverage based on the sprint out quickly enough, and they scored. And then obviously on the last one, we just had a blown coverage and did a good job getting pressure. And then when they scrambled out, we didn't follow the scramble rules that we work on a weekly basis, and they make a big play.
I guess one common theme in the last 2 games, you guys have actually come out and started really well on offense, scored on your first drive both times. Is there any key to sustaining that that you found over the years?
Sometimes it's the worst thing that happens to you too. You get a big play and you think, boy, this is not that it's going to be easy, but you just relax a little bit. And I don't think that's the case. I just think, once again, when we struggle, and we were better this week than we were against Texas, but when you struggle to sustain the ability to rush the football, especially on early downs, I thought we were actually pretty good on 3rd down with our offense. Unfortunately, we were in too many 3rd and longs, and our percentages were okay on 3rd and long. You just can't be in that many of them.
Outside of the first possession of the last 2 games, you made mention after the game, it's been kind of tough sledding as far as explosive plays. Mm-hmm. What have been the difficulties there of the last few games? Just,
a number of things, whether it's, having a guy open and not finding that guy that's open, or having a guy open but missing a protection and getting hit, to having a guy open, making the completion, or getting a run to somebody and we just get tripped up. We're not kicking out of enough tackles as a running back, as a wide receiver. We're not protecting all the time as an offensive line to give Skylar enough protection. There's some times that we think that there may be somebody open and Skylar doesn't see him because of maybe protection or something. So I think it's a combination of everything, and which is, that's good and bad, but at least we're not pinpointing, hey, we just can't get open, or we can't protect. I mean, we can do those things. We've shown that we've done those things. We're just not doing them consistently enough.
I see that Texas Tech ranks next to last in the FBS in 20-plus yard plays allowed this season. Is this a good week of any for you guys to get back on track with the explosive plays?
It's still about matchups. I think that's a big thing, is more about matchups. We're not an explosive offensive group either. So, it probably, now we can be, we've shown that in games, but once again, the consistency factor's got to come through for us. And, we need to find more explosive plays, and that's the challenge this week. And part of it is, it's not an excuse, part of it's our health. Part of it's the running back situation is not really healthy back there. And so when we think we're going to kick out of a tackle, we got kids with bad ankles, and it's not, once again, it's not an excuse. We still got to kick out of those that aren't able to do that.
Kind of along the same lines, Texas Tech really has struggled against the pass this year, and I know you guys are a team that wants to establish the run, wants to be known as a running team, but is it tough to have that approach when it's a defense that struggles so much against a pass? You could go out there and really let Skyler sling it? Yeah,
we need to still stay within what we do, because I just don't think we're a team that's going to get in 4 wides and throw it 45, 50 times. We don't want to do that. In the same respect as we watched the TCU game unfold, TCU had a lot of success with quarterback scramble. I mean, they blitzed the heck out of TCU. Texas Tech did, and the quarterback beat him with his feet. And so Skyler's going to have to be able to avoid some rush as well, simply because if we want to get into a throwing game, it's going to be a pressure game. We saw that in the last couple weeks that they've played. So we still need to establish the run so that we can't get into a nothing but throw and they can lay their ears back, or if we can't run the football early and we're in a bunch of 3rd and longs, they're going to pressure us, and that's something that we want to be able to run the football on a 3rd and 4, on a 3rd and 5. We've shown the ability to do that with the quarterback run or with our jet series, but when you're 3rd and 9 and 10, defenses aren't as worried about it.
Also in special teams, Devin's kind of shown some physical frustrations after some punts over the last few weeks. Have you noticed some issues he's having in the punting game right now?
A little bit. Obviously, Devin's not punting to his capabilities, and that's it's almost to the point of he's human, because he was punting the ball unbelievably well the first 3/4 of the season, and he struggled the last couple weeks. A little bit of it is technique, and we're working on technique. I don't want him to get frustrated, because then your technique does fall apart, and he knows that he needs to be better, and I'm confident that he will be, because he is a big weapon for us, and when he's punting the ball well, we're flipping the field when we're not moving the ball in offense and giving our defense a better opportunity, and when he's not and we're getting into some short fields, we just lose that field position game. And so I know Devin's a tremendous punter. He's got tremendous pride in his craft, and I look for a big bounce back week from him.
How big of a role would you say just energy and emotion has played in wins and losses for your team this year?
It should play a big role without question. It has to. I mean, once again, we talk about this a lot. You get 12 opportunities to play. You better have great emotion. And we can say there wasn't great emotion on Saturday. There was after the first play. I saw a lot of great emotion. There was after a few stops, probably not sustained, probably not consistent. But I also saw that when we got down against Mississippi State, even though there was no panic on the sideline, there wasn't great emotion, and all of a sudden you flip it and make a play. Sometimes momentum is the biggest thing that changes some of the emotion, but it's something that we visited about for sure as a team yesterday.
I asked too about the play where Skyler got hit that was initially ruled targeting there. Did he take a big shot there? How much did that affect him?
He took a pretty good shot there, without question. He was sore yesterday. Was not a concussion. I think that was the biggest thing that we were concerned about. And oftentimes you may not know it's a concussion during that time, and then the next day or that night you start having effects of a concussion, and it was not. So we were pleased with that he's healthy, he's going to be able to play. But without a doubt, at that time, I think it did rattle him, whether it was shoulder, just wind knocked out, but it was a pretty good shot.
You mentioned the Mississippi State game. You got the big kick return. You go to Texas, you get the big kick return. What was your emotion when you're watching the film of this West Virginia game? And it's like, we can't get that play. We just lack that play to get over the hump.
Yeah, and we had it the first play with the big touchdown pass, but then a lot of times that emotion is getting a special teams play or getting a big turnover on defense as well. I mean, it's all three phases, and that's the thing that we talked about with our guys yesterday. Is the offense can't say it was the defense fault. The defense can't say it was the offense or teams. I mean, it was, and us as coaches have to be better as well. And we address that ourselves of saying we've got to put you in better positions, but we also have to just bottom line make some plays. And in the style of offense, the style of defense that we're running right now, if you don't have those big plays, then you can't shoot yourself in the foot with penalties, and you can't miss a tackle, or you can't rough the snapper and give them another possession. All those things, when you are a team like us that doesn't have to play perfect to win, we're not there, but we're not going to light it up and put 58 points on the board and scoring in 3 plays like an Oklahoma can. So when we methodically move it down, you've got to get touchdowns. When we are a defense that is going to make some plays, but we're still young at some spots that people are going to make some plays on us, when we get a stop and we get off the field, we can't give them a free possession. And those are things, and our kids know it. Our guys know it, that we were our own worst enemy in some of those situations.
You go back and look at the stats, and outside of turnovers, if you looked at those stats, you would think you won the ball game. Was this really a case of they even had more penalties than you guys? Was this a case of when these things happened, they convert a 3rd and long into a touchdown.
Yep.
You get the penalty that changes a 0-point outcome to a 7-point outcome, just kind of where everything was parked?
Yeah, no doubt. And when you're going to be into the games that we've been into, 27-24, 24-20, those are critical plays. If you're in a 10-7 game, yeah, those things are going to be an impact, but maybe not as much. If you're in a 56-52 game, they're not. But where we're at right now, where it comes down to all 3 phases having to be on point. All 3 phases for us have to play well or not lose that phase for us to be successful. You're right, you can forget the stats. They were able to get a couple of turnovers. They were able to flip the field, and the penalties obviously gave them the 1 possession. We don't have to play perfect, but we have to play more consistently in all 3 phases. And we're well aware of that, guys, that it's not just the run game. There's some things in the throwing game. It's protection. It's running the right route. It's reading the right coverage on how we're turning the coverage. Is it single high, 2 high? Just like on defense, it's not just the coverage. Sometimes it's a run pressure that doesn't get home. Sometimes it's missing contain on a pass play, and then all of a sudden the guy gets outside of contain, and now it extends a play. All those things are a factor. That's why, for us it was not easy, but to explain to the guys, hey guys, this is a team loss. Coaches, offense, defense, teams, and we need to continue. We need to continue to improve because we knew we were going to have some problems. We knew we were going to have some tough times, but we got to move on. We got to keep getting better.
Who's a guy or two that we don't ask about a lot in here that you think has had a really solid year? Like, who comes to mind in that question?
Well, on defense, I would say Jerron McPherson's had an exceptional year. I think Mitty's had an exceptional year. I think Eli's had an exceptional year, of guys that I don't hear of, the Wyatts and some of those, and Deshaun's and Reggie's that you hear all the time. On offense, I think Nick Coltmeyer's had a really good year. I think the guy that he's been banged up but playing much, much better in the run game for us is Blaze Gammon. I think Blaze has really embraced his role and really made some nice plays. I appreciate the role players doing what they're doing. Brock Monty's had a great year on special teams, and nobody really talks about Brock a whole lot, and Brock's fine with that. He just does his job, but he's had a really good year as well.
What is Joe Irvin's status moving forward?
Joe was suspended for a violation of team rules last week, and that's why he wasn't dressed. And so we're going to evaluate, because he's right at the 4 games right now. So we're going to evaluate what we're going to do. He's reinstated. He served his penalty, and we're fine with Joe from that respect. But it's still going to be based on Jordan James. James did not practice yesterday. We hope he can today. Jordan did. So a little bit still based on that.
Given what you talked about the last 5 or 10 minutes,
Yep.
plus the 2-0 turnover margin, does that kind of typify your margin for error this season as you go on?
Absolutely. Yep. You know, we've been better on the turnover margin. We weren't on Saturday. The explosive play battle, and then the simple thing of staying on the field and getting off the field on third down, and what you do in the red zone. You know, what you do in the red zone, and you can go back to the wins that we've had as well as the losses. You can look at third down. We do in critical third downs situations, and red zone. Those two, the turnovers, we get all. But the red zone of are we scoring touchdowns and are we preventing touchdowns? Because you guys know as well as I do, the offenses are good enough in this league to move the football up and down. There's too much talent. What do you do when you get around the 20?
Distinct or unique challenge that Texas Tech presents you guys?
Tempo on offense. Just they're going to go as fast as they can and try to get 100 plays. And if they get a first down, the chains are never going to be set and the ball's going to be snapped. And it is a Chinese fire drill. It is as fast as you can go, much faster than anybody we've played this year. So for us to replicate that in practice for starters is difficult. We'll do the best job we can. But that's the number one thing. You know, defensively, they've got some really good players, and you know, they're a 3 down. They're going to pressure us, all those things that you see every week. But this week is just the tempo of how fast they're going to go.
Going back to the hit on Skylar's, like I know that the targeting call is always just such kind of a judgment thing, but I guess were you at all surprised given what you know about the nature of the rule that it was overturned?
I didn't see, and I still to this day I have not seen the replay, and I know we're better at the targeting rule, but I also know there's going to be continued discussion on the targeting rule. And what I mean by that is I'm a big advocate of not eliminating kids from games for something that is a bang thing. I think Eli had one this year that I think got overturned, but we're like, oh boy, you know, it really didn't look like a malicious targeting hit. And then there's other ones that I think are, and somebody should sit. But unless they go to a targeting 1, targeting 2, targeting 3, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and then who's going to decide that? Is that going to be the Big 12 office? Is that going to be some arbitrator that doesn't, to say at the end of the day, you know what, we're going to suspend you for another half because of what you did there, or man, it wasn't as bad as we thought, we're going to take that half back or give you that half back. I know one thing, you're dealing with player safety, and all of us as coaches, that's the first and foremost thing we want is player safety. So we're better even than we were 2-3 years ago of what it's been.
And then, I mean, you guys started with a 3-game win streak to open the season, then you had the 2 losses, then you rebounded with the 3 straight wins.
Yep.
Having done that, do you as coaches, do you think the team, do they take confidence that, hey, you guys can end this season on 3-game win streak?
Yeah, I think so. I really do, and that's the ebbs and flows of your first year. I really believe that. You know, we're going to go through some, and we talked about this, guys, when I took the job, and probably talked about it in media day and stuff. We're going to go through some ups and downs. We're going to go through some really positive things, and we're going to have some hard times, and that's difficult for our staff. It's difficult for me. It's difficult for these seniors. I know it is, and that's the challenge is of being able to right the ship and being able to stay positive. There's no reason for us to, and we came in here yesterday and we just kind of told the guys the truth of where we were at. Nobody was yelling and screaming because I think our guys are busting their tail. I really do. We're just not consistent enough and not making all the plays. And that's going to be the sign of learning the offense, learning the defense, as well as just getting comfortable with us as coaches.
Joaquin Gill, do you think he'll be able to play this
He
week?
practiced yesterday and on a limited basis, but he is, knock on wood, to be cleared today. And if he doesn't have any issues today, you know, after he practices, does he not have any headaches or anything like that, he would be ready to go, yes.
It's been a while since you've had a road primetime game. Just out of curiosity, what do you do with the team leading up to the game to keep them entertained all day on Saturday?
Yeah, well, you know, we got to go back to really even what we did with who did Nicholls State the first game or Oklahoma State. We kind of go through that schedule, and we don't change anything on Friday night. And then on Saturday, we just have a little bit more of an extended walkthrough in the morning, which is good. There's a benefit to it because you just can't practice as long as we can right now. I mean, we're not out there very long, and it's difficult too when, the O-line and D-line, for the most part, the same guys are playing every snap. So how much can you go full contact with those guys? You just can't. But you need still the mental reps for the backups and the guys that are going to be the heir apparents. So we'll spend a good amount of time on Saturday morning walking through, and a lot of that may be with some of the backups because they're not getting as many snaps when you don't practice as long.
When you first came to K-State here, Dalton Schoen's a walk-on from the state of Kansas. How could you tell that playing football at K-State was really important to Dalton Schoen?
Just watching him through winter conditioning and watching him in spring ball, the game just was pretty natural to him, and he understood defenses so well. He understood how to set up a defensive back. He understood, the difference between the middle of field open, middle of field closed coverage. He was in sync with Skylar all the time, and I just think the world of Dalton and what he's done here and the type of career he's had, because he came in here with a chip on his shoulder, and he's a great example for all the walk-ons that not only that we have in this program, and some of them have already earned scholarships, but the amount of walk-ons that we're going to continue to recruit here. You just look at him and say, it's not like you're just going to make it your senior year. The kid's had a really good career, and it's because of the work he's put in, the time he's put in, and the chip on his shoulder to say, I know I'm not a scholarship guy. I'm going to outwork everybody and prove that I'm going to be not only a scholarship guy, but a productive player.
During the offseason, there were some issues at wide receiver. How did you maybe see him take the reins and elevate his game even more?
He's taken more of a vocal leadership, and I challenged him to do that because that just wasn't, he didn't mind doing it, but I challenged him every day. Come on, you got to keep teaching these guys, not about the route tree and some of those things, those are easy things, but about how you become a pro, how you become a great player, how you fight through when your legs are tired, how you fight through the mental issue or the mental strain of we're changing this whole concept because of the coverage we're seeing. And he's doing it still today because we're still sometimes messing some things up with young receivers, and we're playing a lot of young guys at the receiver position, and we have to continue to have patience because those guys don't have the amount of snaps under their belt that Dalton Schoen does. And his leadership ability has been tested this year, and I think he's come through really well.
And speaking of young receivers, can you talk about Phillip Brooks's emergence and progress?
Yeah. Phillip's always an explosive kid, but we've been battling some leg issues with Phillip all year long. And so some weeks he's closer to 100% than he is others. I think we had to sit him one game because he just couldn't go, or if he did, it was very limited. He's getting better of understanding what we're doing. The problem is Phillip needs a bunch of reps because he just hasn't had them much because he was really a return guy as last year and early coming into the season. And then the more he learned the game and learned at receiver, the more reps he's gotten. But when you're limited because of some nagging injuries in your legs, you just can't run those routes all the time. And so the best is still to come for Phillip. I still hope in the next 3 games we have, but I'm also excited for the future for him.
Talking a lot about consistency today. Blake Lynch is a guy that's missed 1 kick all year. Maybe the best compliment for a kicker is that nobody talks about him. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. And Blake's another one of those guys that you could throw in with the Blaze Gammons and Brock Montes. He's just had a phenomenal year, and he's a really consistent guy, and he wants to be perfect in his craft. And that's what I appreciate about Blake is, every day he's out there with his same routine, and as a kicker, it's about your routine, and he's locked into his routine. And you got to give credit to Randon Plattner, the long snapper, as well as to Devin as holding, because we've been really good in those 2 areas, and those are another things that, boy, the snap wasn't high, and Devin found a way to get it down. We've been solid there.